2 straight weeks, Georgia's just screwing around. Almost, Kent State, you figure, okay, it's Kent State. We don't care. Big week out at the bars. Good time to cash in on being part of the national champions. You figure Kirby goes ballistic all week. It's an SEC road game at Missouri. Come up, they don't play well. I mean, they're getting pushed around at times by Missouri. Mizzou technically had a chance to win, but then they remembered they were Missouri and fell apart. So Georgia wins. They dominate on the ground late. Stetson Bennett plays a little bit better. Concerns, though. Is there a concern here? Not so much they're not trying, but maybe that Oregon onslaught was more the aberration than the rule when it comes to Georgia this year. Is there a softness in this Bulldog team? Because they can get away with it against Kent State and Mizzou, but they might not against Kentucky and Florida and whatever's coming out of the SEC West. Ross, what do you think?
Maybe, yeah. I mean, it didn't even cross my mind that maybe the season opener was like as you said, maybe we just got a little fooled by the 49-3 game. Yeah, maybe that's possible. I mean, you look at, to me, it's the defense, right? We're so used to Georgia's defense just shutting out folks or just not allowing very many points at all. And they've allowed 44 points combined the last 2 games to Missouri and Kent State. That's the most they had allowed in like the previous 4 games combined, going back to last year, I believe. I mean, there was a stretch last year's defense, where they allowed 2 touchdowns in like 8 games or something. So it's defensively that you kind of scratch your head. And Missouri did have to settle for a bunch of field goals. So Georgia's defense stepped up in the red zone, but Missouri was able to move the ball up and down the field. And that's just shocking. It's just something you don't see a lot with Georgia. I mean, Missouri only had 300 yards of offense, but it sure seemed like more. They were able to consistently move the ball, and Kent State was kind of the same. So that's been the weird part, is the Georgia defense we saw last year. I know they lost a lot of people to the NFL, but kind of head scratching for sure.
They've gotten sloppy. And I think, first of all, the start to me was more than just annihilating Oregon. It was also annihilating South Carolina on the road when South Carolina was feeling pretty good about itself. So I thought they were legitimately extremely good for 3 weeks. And then they've been extremely sloppy for 2 weeks. They've been -2 turnover margin each of the last 2 games. And yeah, their offensive line, I thought, just had a very hard time with Missouri. Missouri played with its hair on fire. I mean, they played really hard, and they blitzed the hell out of Stetson Bennett. And for the most part, I thought Stetson handled it okay. It was more that the offensive line didn't handle it very well. So there's certainly some areas that you look at and say, okay, a team with a better quarterback than Missouri's could maybe exploit a few more things, and a team that can find ways to rush the passer as well or better than Missouri could exploit some things. So, I mean, Georgia doesn't look like they are head and shoulders the best team in the country anymore like they did for 3 weeks, in my opinion.
This is a common theme, O-line, right? O-line issues. Look at Alabama, right? That's been their bugaboo. We saw that in a couple of games. And even the game I was at, Ole Miss, Kentucky, like Kentucky's offensive line was just awful. So the O-line is an issue for some of the top teams for sure.